Let me begin by telling you a story about a soldier. A soldier who doesn't give up and fights at the border so that we can feel safe. He defeats his enemies and makes the nation proud. But this victory comes at a cost, the cost of his arm. Injured in the war, life for him will never be the same. Things as simple as picking up a mobile will become impossible for him. The question is there any way we can help the life return to normal again? Advancement in the technology today allows a near complete function of the arm to amputees. These are the prosthetic devices currently available in the market which help them to do that. As you might notice, the devices lie in the range of $3,000 to $11,000, a price point which cannot be afforded by a major lifeline of the world population, the low and the middle income class people. Around the world, there are 3 million arm amputees worldwide, out of which 80% belong to developing countries. To start with, we looked at our home country, India, which has the second largest amputee population in the world. We segmented this group on basis of income levels and identified these segments. As you may notice, there are no prosthetic devices which can be afforded and appreciated by low and middle income class people. People whose needs are the highest, but their ability to meet them, the lowest.
At InBionics, it was our objective to create a product that would cater to these segments. And so accordingly, our philosophy was to design a product that can give the highest functionality at the lowest possible cost. And with this, the achievement could come at some novel design features. For example, the arm that you see in front of you that's been completely 3D printed, that, when combined with a modular design, allows us to achieve an 85% cost reduction as compared to our nearest competitor. To reduce the cost further, we use some novel design techniques. For example, you might have noticed that these 3 fingers of your hand are never individually controlled, or you do not require individual control for these fingers. So instead of having a single motor for each of these fingers, why not have a single servo motor? By replacing 3 motors with a single motor, we were able to reduce the cost by over 40%. Going further, by replacing the myoelectric sensors that are used after surgically implanting electrodes into the arms of a person by optical sensors, we're able to remove the cost of surgery, the cost of rehabilitation, and the associated wear and tear that is involved with it. Let me show you the first prototype that we had built. That is the rechargeable battery that can give you a battery life of around 36 hours. The optical sensor that I was talking about, that is tied around the arm of an amputee. You can see the working of the sensor, wherein the flexing of a muscle would actually control the working of the amputee. We could show you a small demonstration of the arm in progress, wherein the arm can perform complex tasks, such as even tying your shoelaces. That was our first, the black one was our first prototype, and the one that you see in front of you is the second prototype. So these are some of the main important features of the arm. And as you can see, we have achieved near functionality of the arms in the market. But the most important part of this is that we have achieved it at a retail price of $130. This is in the market, where the next competitor is at $3,000, and the biggest competitor is at $11,000 US. So when we were trying to target this market segment, we analyzed our market, and we found that at this price point, the market that we're looking at in India is at around 82,000 arm amputees.
So how do we plan to scale up our business? Let's look at the phases of the business. So firstly, in the phase 1, we plan to target the lower and the middle income groups through our product Eklavya. How do we plan to target these markets? We plan to target them by tying up with NGOs and government hospitals which already have an established database of amputees. Additionally, we would like to mention we already have our first contract of 100 bionic arms with an NGO called Ratnanidhi Foundation in India. In phase 2, we plan to expand our customer base by going into middle and higher income groups through our product Shaurya. Shaurya, with more advanced features, provides greater functionality. In phase 3, what we intend to do is to customize the products after understanding the varied needs of the consumers, and thus produce modular designs for, say, a tailor amputee or a farmer amputee. To quickly tell you about our operational model, Let me tell you a story of a farmer called Ramlal who lost his arm and thus his means of livelihood in an accident. He then came across our product in one of the promotional pamphlets and contacted the nearest NGO through our helpline number. The NGO demonstrates the products to him and helps him secure a loan to purchase the same. Additionally, the NGO takes the arm measurements, sends it to our facility in Mumbai, where we print, assemble and ship the arm in a matter of 2 days. Then the NGO fits the product on the amputee's arms and ensures that they know how to use the same. Additionally, in case of any service or maintenance requirement, the NGO can place the request with our service center. And thus, Ramlal is back on his foot. Next, we have Prachi with the marketing.
So coming to the market, initially we aim to target 5% of the market share, which is around 3,100 amputees. And how do we do that? We have a budget of 100,000 USD for the promotion plan, which has 4 key elements. First is visibility. That is by tapping channels like medical conferences. Second, we have awareness by social media campaigns and print media. Third, we have credibility by distributing handbooks and resource packs to educate various stakeholders. And finally, we have a 24/7 helpline number to address all the queries. Also, we have a buyback policy and provision for kids. Since for them, the arm needs to be replaced every 1.5 years. We provide regular checkups yearly to make sure that we replace only certain specific parts. Next, we at Inbionix believe that we need to provide end-to-end solution. So we not only just provide the product, but also financial support and rehabilitation services. And how do we do that? Firstly, we tie up with organizations like USAID India, Halaran Philanthropies, and microfinancing institutions. Secondly, we collaborate with startups like Suvitas and hospitals like Seven Hills who provide amputee rehabilitation services. Next, we have the financial plan.
Considering our base case scenario, where we sell around 3,100 units in year 1, the company's valuation is close to $10 million. And the capital required over a period of 5 years is 860,000 against a claim of 10% in the company. A majority of this portion, say 60%, will be utilized in the first year to buy the fixed assets and for the initial working capital. Subsequent funding will be raised through debt only. Because the reason is, after second year, most of our operations will be printing of the arms will be done through a third-party vendor. So in that case, we won't require much assets. Whatever excess cost we pay for printing the arm to a third party will be saved by offloading the assets that are required for printing the arms. While printing of the arms is done by the third party, final assembly will be done in-house.
Can you explain,
only.
sorry, what is the intellectual property involved in this and how have you protected it, is the first question. And the second question I would ask is, what is the regulatory environment around prosthetics in terms of approvals required before you can sell to the public or get into this NGO infrastructure?
So in terms of intellectual property requirements, the arm was completely developed in-house. It was a part of our engineering project. We have the intellectual property rights. We have actually applied for it. So we have applied for patenting and publishing through our institute. We are in the process. So this was just completed in 2016. So right now we are in the process of acquiring that.
And what is that? That's a patent surrounding the innovative design, or what
so
is?
It's the design as well as the electronics that goes within it, the electronic design that we have inside. The whole the electronic structure, so the complete arm in itself. So we applied for a patent on that. We're working with our institute at this point. So it was just completed in December of 2016. So it's just in the starting stages of that. So secondly, in terms of the regulatory environment, while developing the arm, we've been in complete contact with the hospitals and with doctors, and we've cleared it to that there's no regulatory requirement for this device, as there's no invasive surgery or any part of the arm. There's no any health hazards associated with it. It's just attached. Even the sensor, it's just tied around the arms of a sensor. So there are no regulatory requirements for this product as of now.
So your competitors' products need to be regulated because of the fact that they're not using your optical sensors, which obviate the need for surgery.
Yes, sir. You need to insert electrodes, so it's a big surgery. So all of that, there's a huge regulatory requirement behind all of it. We are getting rid of that just because we are switching over to another sensor.
Understood. Thank you.
So you clearly identified a major problem, not only in India, but generally, and also found what could be a fantastic solution. Now, have you considered solving this problem in a quicker way, in a bigger way? Because I've noticed that you had 82,000 people identified as the initial target group, and you had identified partners such as USAID India, and there will be not hundreds, but there will be many partners like that, countries that are willing to go in. But typically, they like to go in and solve a problem, if nothing else, then for the PR value of it. We are eradicating polio, and then they can talk about that for a couple of years, and then they themselves can say, we have done this together. 82,000 people at $130 is not a lot, right? It's like $10 million. And that's with your profit. So considering if you were to partner up with someone but take a smaller role in a sense, defending your patent and everything, you could maybe do it at $8 million. Is there any way that such a partner can come in and you can basically do this in one big sweep? This is not a lot of money for them. And I imagine the PR value of saying, we are going to solve this problem in India once and for all, seems fantastic, and it'll enable you to go to neighboring countries much, much faster.
Yes, so the objective in the end is to reach out to these people. But right now, there are a lot of uncertainties of getting this product into the market. So before just going out there, we want to limit our market, we want to test it out very well. So we do not want to be a company that comes in quickly and gives false hope to people and goes out. We want a product that's well tested into the market. So all our contract, like the contract for 100 arms, we'll be measuring them, we'll be validating all our results. We'll be seeing to it that we have a product that delivers, and only then we'll be expanding out. So that is there around the horizon.
That's a great answer. So, but that means you're not really ruling anything out, actually. You want to solve this problem after all.
Yes, sir.
Had you ever considered that your pricing is a little too low to the point where it kind of become a hindrance to your capability to actually help the society better? Imagine that the next best competitor is being sold at 3,000 per unit, correct? Yes. So let's imagine, let's financial alone. If you sell maybe 1/3 of that price, let's 1,000 units per piece, and you only sold 2,000 units instead of 3,100, and you give 1,000 for free. Even with this scenario, your finance is many times better than what you projected here. So I have a feeling that you're trying to really getting the accessibility. That's your key, right? But so you cannot go help anyone when you cannot even help yourself. So to me, have you ever considered different price point and maybe added some little more values to your product design to actually, gain better premium?
Thank you, sir. So just to clarify the question, I think you're primarily talking about the profitability, in the sense, do we really see ourselves being profitable? Talking about the financials, we are being profitable in the first year itself. And secondly, of having different price points, definitely we've considered it, since we have another product called Shaurya, which is coming up and targeting the middle and the higher income groups, which is at a price point of $330. So this is, again, a higher price point which we're offering. So we plan to do that in phases. So we've considered that.
Yeah,
sorry, more specifically, what in a medical device or a prosthetic product like this, what is the gross margin that your competitors make when I understand you've reduced your cost, but are you consistent in terms of an industry standard on gross margins?
Sir, retail price is $130 for a basic product, a gloveware, and our variable cost of manufacturing it, excluding the asset cost, is close to $67. So we have a close contribution margin of close to 48%.
And how does that compare to your competitors?
So although the competitors have a much higher margin, the market that they're operating is totally different. So they are working on exclusivity. They're looking at the highest segment that can pay for it, so they can build on those margins. Our competitive advantage comes in from a market segment that's totally unlooked for. There's nobody in this market segment. So getting into this market segment, we cannot have those margins that they've built in. So
yeah, but just the fact that they are existing in these high margin areas shows the point that was being made, which is by existing in the high end, you make enough profit to give you the flexibility to do others, right?
That's true.
But by starting at the low end, you really put yourself in a difficult situation. So one question I would reframe the question. I'd say, if I was to consider investing in your firm, but I told you that you must start at a higher price, double or triple where you are, would you be willing to change your business model to that? And then we go to the low range later?
In that case, sir, our market will further reduce to 10% of we anticipate. So maybe we won't have that much access to the market. As of now, we have NGOs as partner who know the market. Who know
Okay, I'll
that
put
there
my
are
checkbook
entities.
back then. You don't want it, right?
So we've done good amount of research into this. The price point is taken into consideration after doing all of the market research. So if you want to...
I think the point being made is if you want to adopt a model where you're going for a very large volume at a lower margin, then you have to get to a very large volume, right? And 82,000 customers over a period of time does not constitute a large volume, all right? So either you need to adopt more of a strategy like John, where you scale this very quickly to become almost a commodity product at a lower margin, or you adopt a principle of premium pricing and then move into your lower segmentation as time allows you to.
So we believe that our profit margin right now is not really low because our cost is exceptionally low as well. So the retail price which we've kept
Yeah, but we're
isn't
talking
keeping in
about,
mind.
we're not talking about necessarily profit margin, we're talking about absolute profit.
Right.
When you get enough profit, you get options.
So also, sir, like the other arm that we're talking about, so that's right now in development. Okay, we plan to implement it in the second year. We have very good, the margins over there are as compared to the competitors. We plan to use the profits over there to service this arm, this segment as well. So we have planned that in such a way so that arm, so it's not that this arm, we're selling it at the price point that it should be, the correct product with the correct amount of features, it's being sold at the right price point. So Shaurya would be one that would be addressing this concern.
And just to add to his point, the profitability, net profit at the end of year one is close to 20%. From year two
No,
onwards,
I
when we
think
have-
what we're discussing here is
That's
the
not-
net dollars, not percentage.
that's 78,000 in year one. $78,000 and gross revenue at the end of year.
So you're not going to make an impact with $78,000. You're not even going to make an impact with $1 million, let's say. We're saying, how do you make an impact is to get a much higher dollar amount from this business. You are presenting a product that you're claiming is at this price point compared to everything else in the market up here.
Yes.
So why do you have to be right down here in your pricing?
So
Even
again-
at such low pricing, 50% of those 82,000 could not afford it. So if we increase the
Yeah, sorry. You can increase and still capture a large percentage of those people, right? By doubling, let's say, and then after a year or two, you capture some good profits out of that. Maybe you make a decision to go down to the lower.
So again, so the limited market is a conscious decision of ours to validate for the reasons of validation. Also, we want to create a brand impact. When we come out in the market, we say that with at this brand point, we are known across the world, and that is something we want to bank on. The
I
brand
think you're
visibility.
totally confused with the marketing theories of, marketing to the mass, whatever. You have a very, very limited market. See, when in your presentation, I don't even understand why you would have to go through so much problem in your first year just to reach 3,100 people. You can do that with even one-on-one marketing. See, the whole thing is you don't have the upside of volume. You can't create demands for this product. Your product is there to help fulfill the needs of those that need, but you can't create those needs. So you have a very, very limited upside.
So if it,
But your product has the capability to even shape the way the world is. But now you choose to work only in a village. I think that's what we're trying to get here. We don't get it. Why?
So,
Well, I disagree somewhat. I do get it. I don't think, I agree with my fellow judges from a financial standpoint, but I think I do get what you're trying to do, and I admire that. I think it is investable on a smaller scale, but it is not much money you're asking for. So I just have one question. Tell me about your main competitor. The main competitor that you have referenced, does that require a surgical procedure for their prosthetic?
Yes. Yes, sir. In fact, allow me to introduce another product. There is an NGO called Jaipur Foot as of now. They offer a prosthetic device which is merely an aesthetic device. It costs only $30, but it has no functionality. This is the kind of product that is given for free by NGOs. So we have a competitor over there, and then we have competitors with much more advanced technology, which, like we mentioned, is priced at $3,000, which give you better functionality, but is sadly not afforded by the people, the target we are mentioning. And if I may be allowed, going back to the previous question, we do have the first phase, which probably isn't that profitable or that much, that's not giving too much finances, and that's precisely why we thought of getting Shaurya into the market, which is targeted only to middle and the lower upper class, which will be priced at a higher margin, and we will be keeping high margins so that we can invest our Eklavya segment as well as move forward, and that's where we thought to go global, because countries like Malaysia, like Singapore, have greater purchasing power than India.
We actually understand, and actually, as you can probably hear from the questions, we actually think this is a quite remarkable product. And we also think that what you're trying to do is very commendable. I think, if I can summarize, what we are trying to do is how could you insulate yourself a little more financially, because you have the chance to have a major impact. And what you're doing and the way you're starting, you could end up doing very little for 5 MBAs, leaving school. It's small, right? If you were to tweak the business model somewhat, you have the chance of getting up to much higher volume, much, much faster. I think that's what you're hearing from all of us.
So
it's not really a criticism per se.
Yeah. So like even at that price point, there are a lot of different avenues that we're looking at. So this product is something that can be easily funded by CSR. So like in India, we have every company that has a 2% CSR policy, and there are a lot of manufacturing companies out there that lose out, that have this problem. Their employees losing out their arms in manufacturing activities. So even avenues like this, these can help us finance to grow out exponentially, to grow out much better. But then again, it's like this product, that segment that is aimed at, we believe that this is the exact right price point, because we have looked at the trade-off. Like if we increase the price point, how much of the market will lose out?
Let me ask a question about this technology. It appears that what you're claiming is that your competitors are up here, you're down here, and you're the only ones. You've found the technology, nobody else has got it. I mean, that's kind of the feeling that we've got, right? So
yes,
what I want to ask you, let's just pretend that that's right. Obviously, competitors see you arrive. They are going to counter-attack you very aggressively. And that will happen. What's your idea, what's your expectation about the counterattack from your competitors?
So in fact, we do expect competitors to come very soon. That's why we are going to start a program. Every amputee that we take in as a patient, the entire data of his usage will be stored in a database. 3 years down the line, we will be using that data and creating a completely personalized product. For example, I have a farmer or like a violinist who's probably having...
That sounds good, but I'm telling you, if you got a technology and it's the idea of no implant, others can come into that very quickly. So you're going to be faced with a competitor that's going to come into your space, and all of a sudden the 83,000 that you thought you're going to get 40. So tell us your expectation. What moves will they make, and how are you going to deal with that?
So right now, the user profiles of the customers of the competitor is totally different. It might be a star athlete who might have lost his arm.
So are you saying you're not going to have competition?
So we're not saying that, sir. But then, right now, the technology that they're working on, it's for a completely different customers.
So you're saying that you're not going to have competition in your space?
So we will definitely have, because 3D printing is something which is available. And
so tell me your the counter attack that's going to come, and what's your plan of how you handle that, besides data 3 years from now?
As I think you have also noticed, we have a limited sort of a market which we are looking at. And her point being that we are building sort of a brand loyalty for us here. We have buyback policies for our product. So we are binding in the customer with us. There's almost locking in the customer with us for 5 years. So once you've logged in that limited market, I don't see a point how the competitor would be able to get that customer back because the customer is already logged in with us.
They won't. But I think the point being made is that there are competitors out there who are already producing products
Right.
that, for a number of reasons, are superior to this one, but then also much more expensive.
Right.
How difficult would it be for them to, excuse the expression, dumb down their products in a couple of months and compete with you if they find your part of the market attractive?
So for the
Wouldn't that be a piece of cake?
So for the competitor to switch out to a market, there are a lot of challenges involved for them as well. So the channels that they're using, so if you have noticed our channels, we're using NGOs. The reason for that is you need to have that accessibility.
I have to repeat, Andrew, then. So you expect them not to do anything?
They will, with
Do
the
you?
technology.
No, I have to understand. So what do you expect them to do? Nothing?
So the technology is replicable. It's easy for them to come down to this technology. I think what my friend was trying to say is that it's the distribution where they will have a problem. That's the only barrier
Well,
which we see.
I think you need to wake up. See, you are fighting with the people who have lots of money, and you have none. And your company going to be run as a very, very small amount in a bank deposit. And you are fighting with big guys. See, they don't need this NGO because they have money. They don't need to rely on a third party channel of distribution because they can create their own. So I think the whole point is, with your plan going at this size, how are you prepared to defend yourself against this coming of the competition?
So as you've mentioned, so even if the competitors try to try to go in without a competitor, the customer acquisition cost will be huge because we are looking at a market. So they're rural Indians who there's no way to access out to them. The only people that know them, the people on the ground, these are these NGOs that are in contact with them. So it's impossible. It's next to impossible because it will make the business unviable. You cannot market it.
But you won't have an exclusive relationship with those NGOs. I mean, presumably these large manufacturing companies can also look up who the local NGOs are and get in contact with them. How do you expect to maintain those distribution channels if a very large, well-financed player with a lot of credibility decides to try and get into your market? And I think that's the question we're all trying to understand.
So I believe our business model is really based on relationship building as well, as we plan to enter into long-term contracts with these NGOs, thus ensuring that we do not lose out on the customer base of that particular NGO. So that answers the question in terms of how we ensure that we bind the NGO with us. We have a long-term contract with us which has certain rules and certain pointers which says that the customer base of their NGO would be with us. So that's with the long-term contracts.
And so I think the crux of what we're trying to say is that we are expecting competition, but we are expecting a strong customer lock-in, and that's how we are trying to tackle our competition with our distribution strategies.
Okay, fair enough.
These amputees, can you define specific groups within that group? For example, Army veterans, you used that as an example. Is that a large group? And is there a way of talking to all of them in one go so that you can at least lock in 10,000 because you talk to the Army? Is there something you can do to make this go a little faster?
So there is an Armed Forces Medical Center in Pune. This is an amputee rehabilitation center only for veteran army. They have products currently available, and we do plan to go and take our product to them so that we get a bulk order and we can cater to that segment as well.
And as you mentioned, globally as well, that can be a very good market. So if you look at the US, all armies of the world have been trying to create such products, but they've been coming out at a very high cost and they've become unfinancial. Like DARPA tried doing that, but they couldn't create an arm that is viable.
I think the US may not quite at least fit this
definitely.
product,
But so
because they would be seen to giving them a very cheap product considering what they've done for the country. So that's a slightly different discussion. What I'm after is, how big is that group? Those veterans that have this particular problem, are we talking hundreds or thousands?
It's definitely...
We don't have the exact numbers with us, but other than the armed forces
Give me an
college,
estimation. You've got to have an estimation. I mean, you're basing your whole You can't just say, we don't really know. Did I hear you say that you had not been to the hospital in Pune yet?
Other than
But you
that-
plan to go? Is that what you said?
We did in fact visit them and we showed them our first prototype. We didn't really do the market sizing as to how many people are available, but we got feedback as to what we can improve in the product.
So our estimation is around 10 to 12,000. A lot of them come from landmine accidents that happen along the borders, and also areas like Siachen glaciers where you have a lot of frostbites. So these are the major causes of people losing out their arms. But our estimation is right now, but we don't have the exact figures.
What's
on
your
our-
next country after India?
So we're looking at all the developing markets, as we have
No,
mentioned.
no, just give me one. You've got it. 20 seconds, 10 seconds.
So Bangladesh.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, team in by SPJ.